because the fun part's going to be trying to rank them. So a list of 10 things that don't age well in TV and movies, and I know because I'm not aging well myself. Um, and I went with movies or TV, and a lot of this, and I'll say right now, I might as well call this the Family Guy list, because Family Guy, all their jokes are topical for the most part, unless it's a Stewie and Brian episode. All the jokes are basically, remember Knight Rider, remember MacGyver, remember, it's all basically all member berries. Ironically, South Park ages really well because there's other jokes around it. Family Guy doesn't age well because all the jokes are topical, and it's all celebrity crap, and it's just, so this is the Family Guy inspired doesn't age well list, and I'm going through movies or television and picking things that don't age well. Number 10, I'll just cross this one out right away. Sports. When you're watching a sporting event, whether it's the NBA with their two tiny shorts, uh, baseball with some of the hairstyles, the chewing tobacco, or hockey and the fact that nobody's checking anybody, whatever you're watching, you can tell right away if it's an older version of the event, because sports changes fast. The only one that ages relatively well is football, because the game hasn't really changed a whole lot, other than the size and speed of the players. Maybe it has. Number 9, and I'll give this one number 9 because it's related. It's been a topic on this channel for the last few days. Wrestling. Wrestling ages really poorly. Unless it's a match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels or something like that. If it's a matchup between two guys and one of them has a weird gimmick, it doesn't age well. Anything from the 80s doesn't age well. We may love it, we may be nostalgic for it, but then we watch it and we go, wrestling's not that good. No. Nobody goes off the ropes. Everything's all rest holds. It's so weird. Number 8. Yeah, I'll put this way. Anytime you're watching an old show or movie and they have, I don't know what I was going to write there, but that's not the word I was looking for. Future tech. You know what I'm talking about? You're watching a TV show from the 80s or 90s or a movie from then, and then they load up the video phone. And you look at it and you go, nope. And we have that technology now, but you look at it in the movie or TV show back then, and you're just like, now I'm out of the flick. Now I'm not a part of this at all. Now I'm just watching this and tearing apart whatever production they use, and it's not their fault. Nobody can see the future, but those movies don't age well. So pull that out of there. Number 7, I'm not going to rate this one higher because I don't think they're great to start with, but man, disaster films age badly. They don't age well at all. I guess if you wanted to put one that kind of ages well, I guess Twister kind of would, because it's just tornadoes. But a lot of disaster films, you look at 2012, and 2012 was a bad movie when it came out, but now it's even more laughable. Because you look at these movies and they talk about, this is going to happen, that like day after tomorrow, with its whole global warming thing, and it's just stuff that's so laughably unbelievable to start with, but then you look 10 years later and it's even more unwatchable. So that's number 7 on the list. Number 6, I'm going to put this, and this is different than number 8. Tech horror. Yeah, you're watching a horror movie, you're like, I enjoyed this when I was younger. And you look at it now and you go, that's not even possible. How? No. Maximum Overdrive is a good example of that. Stephen King movie. I'm going to scare the hell out of you. It was panned at the time. I loved it at the time. I did. I loved it in the 80s. I loved when all the machinery starts telling people off and flipping off the world, and the ATM spitting money out and bridges are opening up and dropping cars into the river. It's fun. You look at it now and you go, that can't even happen. That can't. How? What? Why? How? Why? And you can't get past how and why. And then at the end, when they explain what happened that caused it, you get even more how and whys out of it. It doesn't answer anything. So it's fun, but it's really, really hard to follow. Because, again, you get caught up in that can't happen. Number 5. I'm going to specify television. Television science fiction doesn't age well. And a lot of it is production costs. So their production values will be lower. and you may at the time be really entertained by a TV show. The only exceptions I can see from recent Battlestar Galactica was fantastic. I think that will age really, really well. I'm talking about the stuff that's been done before that it doesn't age very well. Okay? That when you're watching it, I mean, if you enjoyed and loved the show, like whether it was Babylon 5 or Andromeda, you may say, oh, this was a great show. But looking at it later, you can see all these flaws and go, I never noticed that really doesn't look great. And that doesn't, nope. So, there you go, sci-fi. I'll get this out of the way. If it's from the 80s, it probably didn't age well. This also kind of pertains to the 60s. I would say the 70s, but 70s movies were grittier. There was more storyline to a lot of 70s movies. It's like the 60s was hijacked towards the end by forces that would then take over in the 70s and make movies more R-rated, more over the top. And then in the 80s, everything turned to big hair, weird clothes, bright colors, and just general ugliness. So 80s movies generally don't age well. There are exceptions. And there will be a list video that I do soon on movies and that I think have aged really, really well or are timeless. So watch for that. But for right now, 80s is 4 on the list. 3 on the list. I'll go with comedy on TV. So again, this is the Family Guy rule. When you have a TV show where a lot of the jokes are topical, so in other words, they'll make jokes about Monica Lewinsky, they'll make jokes about all these political figures that at the time may be in the news, but 5 years down the road you don't remember, or 10 years down the road you're like, who? That's TV that doesn't age well. And there's a lot of comedy shows that do that. And there's comedy shows too that you may laugh at a lot at the time and you look back and go, why did I find this funny? I found that with Friends. They've started showing Friends episodes again on the Comedy Network. And I'm really surprised at how unfunny it is. Because I remembered it being funnier. And I was like, this show isn't funny. Why did I think, I don't know if I had a concussion that I was fighting through at the time. For a period of years, potentially. But I thought it was really funny. And I would go to work and talk about the episode with friends of mine, and now I just look back and go, why did I care about any of these characters? What was it just Jennifer Aniston's chest? Is that all that mattered to me at the time? Was her hair? I can't think of what else it could have been. Lisa Kudrow was cute back then too, though. Number 2 on the list. Anytime you're watching a TV show or a movie and they show old computers, yeah, you know how old that show is. And especially if it's in one of these where it's future, welcome to the future, and then you look at the computers. Good example of this is the original Star Trek series. And what's funny is when Star Trek Discovery came out, and a lot of people saying, well, that doesn't look like it matches the old original series. I hope not, because the old original series had technology that was before what we have now. The only difference really was the warp drive. The warp drive was the only real advance that we don't have right now in the whole space travel thing. But in terms of what they had on the ship, yeah, the tech was really low tech because they didn't have a budget and they couldn't have envisioned the future that we have right now. So, of course, Star Trek Discovery is going to look at what we have right now and try to advance it. Which apparently also includes Windows code. But that's for another time. And number 1 on the list, you should know this is coming. It's CGI. When CGI first came into movies, I remember it was in Last Starfighter. Last Starfighter ages well only because it knows what it is. The Last Starfighter ages well because it doesn't pretend to be more than what it is. And even though the battle at the end looks fakey, we care enough about the characters, we care enough about what happens, that it's okay. It's forgivable. The biggest CGI issue that I've had, and movie that doesn't age well, I would go with Phantom Menace. The fight at the end of Phantom Menace. And even the first time I watched it, it was hard. But now it's just impossible to watch. Because the battle at the end of the movie takes place on the Windows XP desktop. But for me, the whole battle looked bad at the time. And I said out loud in the theater, really, they're going to have the battle on the Windows XP desktop? Then I go to work. I worked at a call center at the time. I load up my desktop the next day, and I'm like, yep, that's the final battle for Phantom Menace. And then Attack of the Clones made it worse. So they took all those stormtroopers, all the clones and the robots, and they decided to make the battle between clones and robots. Horrible decision. And everything's CGI. And there's so much being thrown at the screen at once, you can't follow it. And at the time they touted it. Oh, there's so much going on at once. It's fantastic, and it's delightful, and all these lightsabers, and it just looks so fake, and it's so anticlimactic. There's more going on in a battle in the original series between one man and one man than there is in any of Attack of the Clones, where you've got millions of one side, millions on the other, and we don't care who wins. Nobody cares who wins between clones and robots. That was my biggest problem. And the CGI made it worse. If they'd gone with more traditional effects like in the original series, where there was some computer stuff in it, a lot of it was green screen, a lot of it was just action figures and miniatures, you might have had better prequels. But they don't age well, and anything with CGI, I'm looking at you, Anaconda, it just looks awful. So let me know what you guys don't think ages well in TV and in movies. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe while you're hanging around the internet and you just happened in here. And I will talk to you guys again soon.